Alright, so a quick video today about the tips and tricks I've learned that will help you learn to ride a foil. This is going to be most useful for my specific foil and board, but in general I think this would work for just about any other foil out there. And it's important to let you guys hear this because there really isn't a lot of information out there as to how to learn to ride one, and it's completely different than riding any other board you've ever rode in your life. So it's helpful to have some pointers to help you out along the way. So as you can see, I'm out here on the lake on behind a motorboat, and I recommend learning this way. This is how I learned, but of course you can start straight in with kiting if you want. But the reason I think starting behind a boat is helpful is because at first all you're focused on is riding the foil board. You don't have to worry about flying a kite at the same time. I first started right here on this lake behind this boat, and it took me many tries, but I was eventually up, and now I'm able to foil around quite easily. It just comes natural to me. And I have recently, just the past few weeks, actually started foiling with a kite, and I've noticed it's a lot it's not harder, it's just now I have to worry about riding the foil and flying the kite at the same time, and it's taken me a little bit of time getting used to flying the kite while up on the foil, but I'm sure that will sort itself out quickly. Okay, so just another piece of advice, a difference behind foiling behind a boat and foiling with your kite. It's probably harder, I would say, because I've done both now, and I would say it's harder to get up and started behind a boat, simply because the line, the ski rope, is pulling basically parallel to the water, flat across the water. So you're going to be kind of working your way with the board out of a hole at first to get up on plane on top of the water. After that, it's really easy, and then you just have to worry about getting the board out of the water and up on the foil. With the kite, I've noticed that because your kite is pulling you up and out at about a 45-degree angle or so, because the kite is lifting a lot of your weight up and out of the water, you get up on top of the board much more, much faster, and a little bit easier than behind a boat. Another quick tip, this would be specifically for my foil. Whether you use the board I make with the foils, or whether you bolt onto your own board or make your own board, it will be the same. But I would recommend, I usually have my back foot right here, right behind these two back bolts, and then your front foot is going to be about 18 to maybe 20 inches out in the front. That's about the ideal stance that I've found. Of course, depending on your height and your weight, that might change a little bit, but if you're, I would say those dimensions that I just said would probably be the best place to start out. And so what I recommend doing actually is taking a little piece of duct tape and putting one here, and then putting one maybe 18 through 20 inches out in front, and so that'll help where to place your feet to start to get you in a good position for getting up and foiling. Okay, so I have the duct tape, the one piece for the back foot right behind the rear bolts, and another piece up front. This is at 19 inches. Again, anywhere between 18 and 19 is good. And the next thing I recommend is just to wax up the board. Just wax this area where your front feet is, wax this area where your back foot is. You can use board wax if you can find it at a local store. That's the easiest. Or you can just use a candle. I've used any candle, like even birthday candles, you just rub them on there. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. It'll keep your foot stuck to the board and help out when it's wet and everything. Okay, so now you're in the water, you have the board in front of you. I'm regular stance. Goofy stance will be the same thing, just the other way, obviously. So you're going to want the ski rope. This is, again, if you're behind a boat, you're going to want the ski rope in front of the front wing. You don't want it in between the wings. You just want it in front of that wing. And whoever's driving the boat, have them go slow at idling speed at first. And that will enable, that'll get some tension in the line, and it'll get you moving at a very slow speed. And you're going to want to, with your feet, maneuver the board so that it's floating straight up and down like this. It's going to be further down the water when you're on it. But when it's straight up and down, that's when I recommend, whoever's driving the boat to give some speed and allow you to get up. And the most important thing I can tell you guys, and a lot of people don't realize it at first, is you need to have a lot of weight on your front foot, especially at the start, but also when you're starting to lift up on the foil. The more weight on the front foot you have, the better, because that's controlling the lift of the wing. So you're going to be balanced over the front wing, and the way you control the up and down is you put more weight on your front foot, and that'll drive the board down. The foil will go lower in the water. You put more weight on your back foot, it's going to increase the angle of attack on the foil, and you will start to rise up. And if you rise up too high and your wing comes out, you're going to be wiping out most likely. Sometimes you can save it, but especially if you're just beginning, that will result in a wipeout. So what really makes foiling quite a bit of a challenge for most people is getting up on the board is fine. Having the board on the water, riding on plane, just like any other board. But once you start to get the lift on the foil, what becomes different is you're no longer using the edges of the board to steer. If you're on a normal kite board, you dig your left edge in and your board turns to the left. You dig your right edge in and your board turns to the right. And you're using a lot of back foot pressure on a regular board in order to keep the tip of the board up in the air so it's not catching the water. But once you're up and on the foil, what's going to happen is you can't use the edges anymore because they're not touching the water. So it becomes a balancing game. It all comes down to using, putting pressure on your toes and putting pressure on your heels to control the left and right lean of the foil and the board, and putting weight on your front foot and weight on your rear foot to control the height of the foil. Okay, so earlier today I had my younger brother out here who's never ridden this before, and he gave it a couple goes, about 10 or so tries. I'm gonna edit them all together real quickly. He wipes out every time, but that's just to show that that's what's probably gonna happen at first. But give it another 20, 30 tries. Before you know it, you're going to be up and foiling, and it'll just come so natural to you. Okay, so my last piece of advice, and probably the most important piece of advice, is to don't get discouraged. When you're first starting, it's probably going to get frustrating. It's easy to get a little angry at times when you're not up and foiling like all those guys in the videos, and that's for a reason. It's because it takes some time, it takes some practice to get up and going. Obviously my little brother is going to have a little more work to do. You're probably not going to get up and going on your 10th try. Maybe you'll get lucky, but probably not. But yeah, keep going. It took me 40 to 50 tries before I was up and on the foil and feeling lift for the first time, and it was awesome. And then I just wanted to do it more, and then later that day I was able to do circles around this whole lake and ever since then it's just been natural and easy for me. So keep working at it. Before you know it, you'll be up and going, and take care.